At that time, I had just turned 15. That's when this terrifying thing happened. My sister was 3 years older than me. When it happened, she had just turned 18. She and her boyfriend Chen Jing had been on and off for about 2 years. My parents were divorced. So, I lived with my mom, and my sister and brother lived together. When the house got crowded, we renovated it. As for the room layout, my brother's room was very small. My mom's was relatively larger. Then my sister and I shared a big room. As we grew up, we started wanting our own space. So my mom remodeled the big room and built a partition wall that turned it into 2 smaller rooms. The only problem was, you had to walk through one room to get to the other. At first, I lived in the room my sister had to pass through in order to reach hers. Anyway, my sister's boyfriend Chen Jing was about my father's age, and he even had a daughter the same age as my sister. This man had a huge influence on my sister. She stopped going to school and parties. And because of him, she started getting into drugs. A few years ago, her boyfriend was very well known in our small village. He abused drugs back home and often got into fights, really violent ones. Once, he almost beat someone to death in a boxing match. He also had a notorious reputation for abusing his girlfriends. So my parents didn't approve of them dating. That led my sister to move out and live with him in a tent in the woods. It sounds ridiculous, but he stayed there because he was homeless. Even though Mom disapproved, she let my sister stay with us at home to keep her safe. I was very introverted and shy back then, especially around strangers. Chen Jing was no exception. He had to walk through my room to reach my sister. I always thought my uneasiness came from that. But a few weeks later, things happened. When my sister was 17, she found out she was pregnant. She was very worried, but Chen Jing wasn't. My mom was deeply disappointed that my sister got pregnant so young, but she still chose to support her. One day, my mom noticed my sister was upset. She told her that Chen Jing wanted her to, even forced her to take pills, so she would have to. It sounded horrible, but at the time I didn't really pay attention. And I didn't realize I was slowly sinking into depression. Later, my sister and her boyfriend decided to keep the baby, and her belly grew bigger and bigger, even though my depression worsened. One time, I decided to tell Mom how I felt. She ended up crying and blaming herself. That made me feel awful. After that, I never told her again. As time went by, things started to get strange. At night, when I went upstairs, I would find Chen Jing just standing in my room. Whenever he was caught, he'd either rush into my sister's room or run downstairs like crazy. Although it made me uncomfortable, I didn't tell my mom about it. By then, I was already skipping school a lot, so our relationship wasn't good. Eventually, I stopped going to school entirely. I spent most of my time in the shower. I had always been a well-shaped girl, so it was normal for boys at school to make comments about me. But when my sister's boyfriend started noticing too, it felt strange, especially since he was so much older. He had a particular obsession with one silk nightgown I owned. It was a little above the knee, with a low neckline. Being introverted, I felt uncomfortable wearing something sexy. But I really loved that dress because it was soft, so I wore it many times. That was before I noticed his strange attitude toward it. At first, he just said, "Hey, I really like that dress." I ignored him. But later, he started saying, "I really like the way you look in that dress. I like you in that dress." I got angry and stopped wearing it altogether. I avoided wearing anything revealing around him. For a while, I ignored him too. Later, when my sister had the baby, both our rooms were crowded. I argued with my mom a lot. which made me feel worse. So, when my nephew was born on my birthday, I spent the whole day crying in my room. I hated living there so much. I wanted to go somewhere else. Weeks passed. My relationship with my mom got worse. We had a huge, terrible fight. Chen Jing, for no reason, jumped in and started disrespecting me. One time, my sister pulled my mom downstairs to calm her down, leaving me upstairs with Chen Jing. He left my room. I thought he went downstairs too, but instead, he shut my sister's door, then came back into my room and closed my door. That's when things started spiraling out of control. Chen Jing completely snapped in front of me. This terrifying, 6-foot muscular man was standing right in front of me. He shouted at me. I was really scared at that time. Even now, thinking back still gives me chills. He yelled right in my face. If you were my own daughter, I would have locked you in a room with only a bed and a mattress long ago, and only given you 1 meal a day. He went on and on saying how disgusting and rude I was. I was so scared that I fainted, collapsing on the bed for a few seconds. He was very angry, struggling to hold himself back from hitting me. I could see it clearly on his face. He really wanted to hit me. He pulled his arm back, as if he was going to hit me. But then he stopped when his fist came close to my face. I thought he would beat me black and blue. But what was most disturbing was a sentence he said that I'll never forget. He leaned close to my face and whispered softly that I deserved to be. Then he walked out. I leaned against my bedroom door crying, terrified he would come back and say it again. The next morning I had school. He thought I needed to wake up at 6 a.m. So, he walked into my room and picked me up while I was asleep, then put me back down. I woke up in terror, and then he crouched down, face to face with me, and said if I didn't go to school, he would do even worse things to me. Then he went back to my sister's room and told her what he did, and they both laughed, while I cried in the room next door. That day I went to school without even taking the lunch my mom had made. As soon as I got to school, I went straight to my favorite teacher and broke down telling her everything I went through. I explained what happened and why I didn't dare go home. Social services and my mom were called in. When my mom learned the truth, she immediately told Chen Jing to pack up and leave our house. After that incident, I was trapped at home because Chen Jing kept threatening to kill me and burn our house down. He even attacked my brother, injuring his eyebrow so badly he needed stitches. Our family had to set off the alarm so that if we called the police, they would come immediately. About a month later, things calmed down. We never heard from Chen Jing again. Later I learned that Chen Jing was arrested, and his family, an old woman in his village, was sentenced to at least 8 years in prison. Thinking about how he said I deserved to be assaulted still makes me feel terrified, because back then he wasn't just trying to scare me, he truly was a deranged and vile man. I want to share a true crime story that my great-grandmother told me when I was a teenager. This story is a strong warning not to touch on sex and violence, no relationships between adults and minors. My great-grandmother's name was Lily. For privacy reasons, I won't reveal her last name. She was born and raised in Alabama during the Great Depression in 1933. The Great Depression in the U.S. lasted from 1929 to 1939. Life was tough everywhere in America, but especially bad in the South. There was massive unemployment and crop failures. People lined up for bread and soup, but it was never enough to eat. My great-grandmother's father was a farmer. He owned a small farm, and life for him and his family was fairly good. He kindly shared food from his farm with neighbors and others in need. So, he was well liked in the community, and Lily and her family got through the Depression smoothly. Time passed to 1946. Lily was already 13 years old. She had grown into a lovely young girl with long brown hair. She often tied a big red or pink bow to the back of her dresses. Her curvy figure also attracted many boys. Lily looked very pretty in tight dresses and nice shoes. She looked stunning, and she knew it herself. Among the many boys drawn to her was a 20-year-old man named Homer. Homer had dropped out of school. He was the bad boy type. He looked tough, but handsome, with dark brown hair, long sideburns, and a good-looking mouth. He wore a black leather jacket and motorcycle boots. Homer liked smoking Camel cigarettes. The age difference was a problem, and it was illegal, because Homer was 20, while Lily was only 13. But they kept it a secret. Homer often came to pick up Lily, not waiting at her house, but around the corner, so her parents wouldn't see him, because they would never have approved of their daughter being with such a man. Homer had a beautiful black motorcycle. He also took Lily to burger joints and malt shops, and they danced together on Saturday nights, listening to big band music of the late 1940s. My great-grandmother Lily once asked Homer where his money came from. Homer simply replied that he earned it as a local mechanic. However, Lily knew he might have also been involved in illegal things, because he always seemed to have plenty of money to spend on her. Homer treated Lily well, but he had a temper. Because he had seen it before, he had beaten up quite a few boys who made him angry. One day, Homer asked Lily if she was willing to have relations with him. Although Lily had had several boyfriends, and even kissed a few of them, she was not ready to take that step. After all, in 1946 she was only 13 years old. But Homer was rough with Lily. He forced her by the licorice and then assaulted her. It caused her great harm. Several times she almost passed out. At that time things were a bit different from now. So Lily kept it from others. She didn't tell her parents, just kept it hidden, even though she really wanted to tell someone what he had done to her. But she was too scared, and if she did, everyone in town would know, and she would be labeled as ruined. Of course she didn't want that. At that time in Alabama, rape and murder were punished by the electric chair. If Lily had told the police what Homer had done to her, Homer might have been sent to the chair. Alabama's electric chair was called Yellow Mama because it was painted with yellow paint, the same as the paint used on highway lines. Exactly the same. My great-grandmother Lily told me that despite Homer's assault, they were still friends, even though they no longer dated. Homer had a .38 caliber revolver. He liked to use it in the backyard, near the western fields. There was a huge shooting range area. When Homer was dating Lily, he sometimes let her fire his gun, helped her aim, get used to shooting, hold the gun steady. But she only tried his pistol a few times. That was all. Seeing Homer holding a gun still scared her inside. Lily knew that bad boys like him might have robbed some stores before. That might be why he had so much money to buy a motorcycle and take pretty young girls out on dates. That's what Lily thought. On February 8, 1949, Lily heard that someone had shot a small grocery store owner. He was 71 years old at the time. It was Homer who killed him, because the grocer refused to give him the money back at closing that evening. Although there were no witnesses at the crime scene, several witnesses saw Homer that afternoon near the small grocery store, waiting until dark for the store to close. He did it to rob the store. This suspicion led the police to arrest him. After Homer was arrested, he immediately confessed to the murder. He even told them where in his house the gun was that he had used to kill. Homer confessed again while in prison. In prison, things did not look good for him. It was now 1950. His execution day was set for July 21st, 1950. On the chair known as Yellow Mama, my great-grandmother Lily wanted to go to Kilby Prison in Alabama to say goodbye to Homer, but her parents would never allow it. They had never really liked him. Knowing she had been with such a dangerous man, they had already strictly grounded her. Lily told me that when her parents found out everything that had happened between them, they were probably glad to see Homer in that chair. Because how dare Homer assault their underage daughter? That was truly unforgivable to them. Homer ordered his last meal, which was bread with mashed potatoes, with corn on the cob and soda. At first he planned to throw the food at the guards, but when the meal arrived, he changed his mind. Because he was hungry, he couldn't let such good food go to waste. After all, it was his last meal before entering eternity. He did speak with his mother, saying he was sorry for everything he had done, and hoped she could forgive him. Before Homer walked the last mile to the chair, he also received a final prayer from the prison chaplain. My great-grandmother Lily knew that Homer was probably nervous on the way to the chair, because he chewed a big piece of gum on the way. But he never showed it. He was a tough guy. He wanted to die as a tough guy. And Homer was strapped to the padded chair, with a hood over his face. They waited for Alabama's governor to make the final phone call to stop the execution, but no one called. The executioner pulled the switch. Homer was a strong boy, but the chair was stronger. Homer died 2 minutes after the switch was pulled. The tombstone read, Homer Garland Odin. Born June 27, 1926. Died July 21, 1950. The dead are gone, but not forgotten. My great-grandmother was very sad. She felt he had wasted his life. But she was even sadder for the grocery store owner's fate. Her relative. He should not have been murdered that way. Homer truly deserved punishment for that. Lily said she still had feelings for Homer, because sometimes she would put roses on his grave. Afterward, she moved to another place in Alabama, then got married and started a family. Although Homer was a bad man, he once told her that he admired Lily's virtues. He wished he was more like her. He loved not just Lily's beauty, but also her kind heart and her positive attitude toward life.